Welcome to another episode of Chad Sports Talk. My name's Chad. Take a dive on sports. And welcome to my series-ish about the league greatest teams. This is kind of like a spin-off for my NBA 75th anniversary selection, which I created way back in the All-Star break. This is kind of like following up how I did with the NFL when I did the top 50 positions, and I created the greatest teams. These are my quote-unquote dream teams. And, there was a hard selection for me to kind of pinpoint this, how I wanted to create these teams. Do I do like a 15, 20-man roster and just load them up and create like 4 teams that way? Do I do like a 15-man roster? Do I do 10? I went back and forth how I did this. I went down to a 12-man roster, which means a lot of great players are not in that first team. And it's going to hurt some fans of these players. It's going to hurt me to do some of these as well. Are these selections perfect? By no means are they. These are just my personal opinion and my own metrics to kind of determine the best teams, or not best players, and ranked and stacked them accordingly. But before we dive into all that, if you could just smash that thumbs up for me, especially the content I provide you really places YouTube guides out and help promote this channel out. You can also subscribe. A lot of you guys review my work, not many of you subscribe. It doesn't cost you a thing. It helps me provide more entertainment value for you. Now, in terms of these teams, this is, like I said, it was a hard decision to come up with some of these, and not all the MVPs made this list, which is probably a downside to these lists, and it does not detract over what they've done overall. Like I said, these are 12-man rosters. I did create 6 teams. That's right, 6 of them. About 75 years in NBA, so I think 6 teams is a very good metric there. I also created a honorable mention team of players that I really consider putting up in here, but certain things just didn't quite pan out for them. And then the future stars. And these are the guys you really have to watch out for moving forward. And these guys will probably be the next leaders of the NBA. So let's go ahead and just dive right in. Probably do the same thing I did with my NFL team. Kind of just show up teams and kind of talk about some of the players and the reason why I put them on there. So let's bring up the first team. As you look, you'll probably see a lot of great names on here. Quite a few players in here people consider the GOAT. So let's go ahead and start with your big man of Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and Bill Russell. Your forwards will be Tim Duncan, Kevin Garnett, LeBron James, and John Havlicek. The guards, Magic Johnson, Bob Cousy, Kobe Bryant, and Michael Jordan. And then, of course, your 2 extra guys will have the mailman himself, Karl Malone, and the icon, Jerry West. Now, this one I actually want to put like Dr. J and LeBron James, or not Larry Bird up here, but who you get rid of? I mean, that lets you know that the struggle I came up with this one. We all know the greatness that surrounds Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant. Yeah, we all know the current generation of stars are saying how great LeBron James is. But as you look at between them, Bill Russell on here has the most titles between them all with 11. That's followed by John Havlicek. Of course, they're part of that great Boston team. So a little unfair advantage with those guys. But Cousy had 6. Jordan had 6, as well as Kareem. Well, Magic and Kobe both end up with 5. LeBron only has 4 titles. But he also has 4 MVPs, which is not as same as Kareem, who has 6, and Jordan with 5. Even Bill Russell has 5. But in terms of the point scorers, Kareem is the all-time point scorer. LeBron has now moved to 2nd, who he passed the mailman, who was 3rd. So I think if you want to do like a Mount Rushmore of the 4 greatest players in NBA history, I think you probably put Kareem, LeBron, Kobe, and Michael. I don't think anyone will really argue with that one whatsoever. But as you see, this team has a lot of Lakers and a lot of Celtics. And you'll see a recurring theme with a lot of these teams where you have a lot of those players in here because they have some of the greatest players of all time wear those uniforms. But moving on to the second team, you see my big men are Hakeem the Dream Olajuwon, Big Daddy himself, Shaquille O'Neal. Your forwards will be Dirk Nowitzki, Bob Pettit, Dr. J, Julius Erving, Larry Bird. The guards is Chris Paul, Gary Payton, Dwayne Wade, and the Iceman himself, George Gervin. And then, of course, your extra players here are KD, Kevin Durant, and then Bill Sharman. And we all know the dominance that Diesel provided with his many teams he stopped with. When he came out in Orlando, his stops in Phoenix, he was in Boston, Cleveland, and then having his great tenure with the Lakers when he had to help him win a bunch of titles. Hakeem, unfortunately, didn't win anything until after Jordan retired the first time, and then he went back-to-back crowns. Dr. J was a prominent player in the ABA, but when the ABA got absorbed into the NBA, unfortunately, the NBA kind of shafted ABA teams and forced them to come in as brand new franchises, so their players got dispersed. So fortunately, he ended up going with Philadelphia, and only getting one from there. Bird had the 3 titles and 3 MVPs. So this is when you don't have a lot of players, but you have a lot more all stars, all NBAs, all defensive teams, and everyone here also, like the first team, are all part of the 75th anniversary team. But there's definitely some players on here, I think, a little bit question mark. I think my guards. I think all 4 of these guards. Using my metric system I came up with, I was kind of surprised that these were the top 4. But, that's just happened to be how things kind of rolled out here. I probably could have switched out a few here and there. I probably could have put like Jason Kidd or Oscar Robertson or John Stockton as an alternate instead of Bill Sharman. But that's just how things kind of transpired. So let's go ahead and just roll on to Team 3. Here, the big men are Wilt Chamberlain, the only man to ever score 100 points in the game. The Admiral himself, David Robinson, even though he never reached that rank in the Navy. Dolph Schayes, one of the godfathers of the NBA. Sir Charles Barkley, Scottie Pippen, Rick Barry. The guards will be Jason Kidd, Oscar Robertson, AI himself, Allen Iverson, Sam Jones with your alternates being Moses Malone and John Stockton. Now, Pippen, with him being on this list, I think it really kind of deals with the team that he was really on. With him and Jordan paired up, they made a great dynamic duo that created, their own little dynasty in Chicago, winning 6 titles in 8 years. Looked at John Stockton. He was one of the big assist guys, especially for teammates with Karl Malone, so really fed him all of his points. Moses Malone actually skipped college and just went directly into the NBA, and he ended up winning 3 MVPs to include 12 All-Star visits and 8 All-NBA appearances. And like the previous 2 teams, on this team, all members are part of the 75th anniversary team. Dolph Schayes is actually a part of all 4. Yeah, there's a 25th, 35th, and 50th anniversary teams, much like Bob Pettit, Bill Russell, Bob Cousy. On the other franchises, Bill Sharman missed the 35th, but he's on all the other ones. And same thing with Sam Jones on this team. He was all of them except for the 35th. So these are actually some great players in their time. So 4th team, your big men are Artis Gilmore and Dwight Howard. Your forwards is Elvin Hayes, Giannis. I'm not going to try to butcher his last name. I'm not going to disrespect that man like that. Kawhi Leonard. And then Elgin Baylor. Your guards would be Walter Frazier, Stephen Curry, Hal Greer, and James Harden. And then your extras here would be Kevin McHale and Steve Nash. Now, it's the 2 big men in here that are in question because neither one of them are in any teams whatsoever. But Dwight Howard has one of these players that create, a blocking machine. Now, lately in his career, not so much. But he does have 3 Defensive Players of the Year. He's definitely one of these guys that you just don't want to go there. Artis Gilmore, he really had more success. Well, I wouldn't say more success, but he had better accolades when he's with the ABA than he was with the NBA. But he still ended up getting 11 total All-Star appearances and 5 total of all defensive teams. So he's definitely one of these players that was good. But I do think he actually was better than some of the players that got selected for the 75th. And just unfortunately, he's just playing these bad teams. We all know about Steph Curry and James Harden and Giannis. These are just 3 modern players right now, are just some of the elite players in today's game. Kawhi Leonard's also another great defensive player who has not been playing well recently because of injuries, and it seems to be his downfall right now. He seems to get injured a lot, but he's like one of the few players that actually went to 2 different franchises, going to the NBA Finals and winning the Finals MVP. So when he's healthy, he is a force du jour, and something you have to account for when you take it on any team he's on. Right now he's playing in his hometown, LA, with the Clippers. Let's go ahead and move on to the 5th team. Here we probably see some more recognizable names and some names that people probably going to scratch their heads over. But your big man is going to be Patrick Ewing and Dikembe Mutombo. Your forwards, the Worm, Dennis Rodman, AD, Anthony Davis, Paul George, and the human highlight reel himself, Dominique Wilkins. The guards will be Isaiah Thomas, Russell Westbrook, Joe Dumars, Clyde Drexler. The extra guys would be George Micah and Ray Allen. Now, Mutombo and Ewing are just 2 great big men during the 80s or 90s, basically. Was the epitome of theirs and them. That's when they really got. That's when I personally really got in the 80s, when you had the Bad Boys led by Isaiah Thomas, who actually had a young Dennis Rodman with him. You had the Bird Magic feud between the Lakers and Celtics. Jordan was in there. Dominique was playing in Atlanta. Sir Charles up there in Philadelphia at the end of Dr. J's tenure. Clyde Drexler up there in Portland. Hakeem in Houston. I mean, there was a lot of great players sprinkled out there, especially Reggie Miller, Indianapolis, Chris Mullin, and Golden State. This is the time that I really enjoyed, that I watched basketball. And so some of these players do have kind of I know, because I've watched them play and seen that. Here there's 3 members of the Bad Boys team on here with Dumars, Isaiah Thomas, and Dennis Rodman. Detroit was just a bad team in a good way. I'm surprised they didn't win more titles than they did, and surprisingly, Dikembe and Patrick never won any more titles than they did, because they got none. But Dikembe was a 3-time Defensive Player of the Year. Patrick Ewing was always there in the All-Star game. We all know about Rodman. He went to have championship success in Detroit and San Antonio and in Chicago. And then AD. I don't know if things were if he was healthy this year, maybe the Lakers would have made the playoffs. Paul George. He's Kawhi's running mate with the Clippers, and just things didn't work out for them either. Dominique Wilkins, I'm just surprised he didn't get anything, but like I said, he was a human highlight reel. Isaiah Thomas, he was a good on-field general for that Detroit team. And George Michael was just the prototype for the big man in the early days in the NBA. So when the old Minneapolis Lakers. So that's the 5th team. And here's the final of my teams, the 6th team. This is definitely a bunch of players, a lot of people are going to really scratch their head on, but the big men will be Ben Wallace and Willis Reed. Your forwards of Dave DeBusschere, Draymond Green, Paul Pierce, Carmelo Anthony when he's in his prime. Your guards will be Slater Martin, Tony Parker, Tracy McGrady, and Klay Thompson. And your extra players would be James Worthy and Nate Archibald. Now, Ben Wallace was a beast in Detroit that actually helped him land a NBA title in his tenure there. Willis Reed, if you don't know, he's actually with the New York when the Knicks actually went to the finals, had a good team. Left the game injured, came back, not 100%, but led the Knicks and then led them to their title. Draymond Green right now, you can love him or hate him, but he's probably one of the better defensive players out there. You know, he only has one defensive player of the year, but he's definitely a force to work with when he's out there. Tony Parker, the little Frenchman, was great for the Spurs when it helped them win their magical run with him there. So Tracy Mcgrady, I think, is one of these guys. He does get a lot of attention. He was a great player, but he played on a lot of teams, so he didn't really be able to solidify his legendary status to any nth degree. But he's a 7-time All-Star, 7-time All-NBA. And I just think, he was a great player to kind of look at that aspect. Well, those are my 6 teams. There's definitely a lot of players on here that probably no one's going to have on here. So I think my 6th team, I definitely think people are going to have a question some of these names. So I won't fight you on that one. Possibly in the 5th team as well. But let's go ahead and go with my honorable mentions. These are definitely guys that should have been considered that didn't quite make it the list. There'd be a lot of names you probably recognize. Some of these names are on the 75th anniversary team. So they'll include Dave Cowens, Bill Walton, and Vern Mickelson, Jerry Lucas, Paul Arizin, Billy Cunningham, Damian Lillard, Dave Bing, Pistol Pete Maravich, Reggie Miller, Bob McAdoo, and Earl Monroe. Now, no, this doesn't have all the other MVPs, but does have quite a few of them that were missing, like McAdoo and Walton. Lillard is just a quiet player up there in Portland. This is doing what he has to do, and I've already mentioned Reggie Miller earlier in this video. So let's go ahead and go with the future stars. These are definitely the players you want to look out for moving forward. This does not include all of them, by the way. There's a few other ones out there that you could definitely consider as well. But just go ahead and go with Rudy Gobert, which may not be a future star because he's been in the league for a little bit, so you may tailor off later on. Joel Embiid, who I think should have won MVP this year, but who's won their 2nd. Nikola Jokic, who is actually announced recently to win the 2021-22 NBA MVP award. Karl Anthony Towns was another perimeter big man, so he gives Minnesota a lot of talent, especially the young guard they got up there as well. They could be on here as well. Zion Williamson. Now, I put him on here because of a lot of the hype. Me personally, he has to stay healthy, and that's part of his issue. If he can stay healthy and start showing things, and part of do what Joel Embiid did. Now, Joel Embiid had a delayed start due to injuries. I think Zion might be the exact same way, but I think he needs to get out of New Orleans and find another team to really showcase his ability. But that's just my personal opinion. Jason Tatum is another rising star, especially during his playoffs, especially how he handled the loaded Nets and how he does against Milwaukee every other night. Luka Doncic, I mean, there's nothing you can really say about Luka. He's the bright spot with Dallas. We're going with another European star to kind of lead this team. Trae Young, the young guy, the young perimeter shooter for the Atlanta Hawks. John Morant came on his own this year with Memphis, leading them to the number 2 seed in the West. Devin Booker was a nice young pickup for the Suns to kind of go there with CP3 and really help propel this Phoenix as the number 1 seed this year in its playoffs. Donovan Mitchell is another a young talent that's paired up nicely with Rudy Gobert. Nice 1-2 punch with those two. Pretty much like AKA Carmelo and John Stockton-ish. And then finally, Zach LaVine. But with him pairing up now with DeRozan, it really helped elevate his game. So my teams, within my 6 teams, my honorable mentions and my future stars. I'm sure some of the honorable mention future stars should be up like at least a 6 team. I get that. So I'm not going to question anybody's antics when it comes to that. So I'm not totally clueless when it comes to that one. Maybe everything else. But like I said, that's just my team. So, or my team, should I say? And by all means, doesn't mean everything's perfect. I'm sure you all have your own particular points of view on who's going to be the best team all around. You can just leave those how would you rank those teams in the comments down below. But just leave your comments down below what you think of this video, think of these teams. I understand everyone's going to have questions about this, especially that last 6 team. I'll take that one. Just let me know down below. Unless you want to vent about something else, you can also put it down there. I read everything. I may not respond to everyone, but I read every comment. Once you're there, you can hit that subscribe button as well. Once you do that, you hit that bell notification so next time I post a video. And I'll see you next time on Chat Sports Talk.